Good evening and welcome to the Gold, Goats, and Guns Hour here on YouTube and Periscope. My name's Tom Luongo. It is Monday, November 19th, 2018. Got a lot to talk about tonight. Mostly I want to talk about Bill Browder. I haven't talked about Browder in a while, and I think it's important that we do so considering a couple of things that have happened in the headlines over the course of the last days. Browder is not happy with the way things have gone the last couple of days. Why is that? Well, first things first, on September 30th, the Chinese recalled their president, the current president of Interpol, back to China for undisclosed corruption charges. Man hasn't been heard from since. The Chinese submitted his resignation to Interpol recently, which now has opened up the search for his replacement, and the most likely person who's going to replace him is one Alexander Prokopchuk. Yeah, he's Russian. And he's also the guy who's been pretty solidly trying to get Interpol to pursue Browder on behalf of Russia, who has a warrant out for his arrest because he was tried in absentia in a Russian court last year. And we all know this already. We've all been over this a few times. I'm just sleeves my shirt so I can get myself situated here. So, yeah. So that's the first part of this. So now Interpol, who's been protecting Browder, in effect, by not honoring the Russians' warrants for his arrest, right? He was picked up last year in Spain, and the Brits were able to get him out of jail because he's Bill Browder. And there's been apoplexy all over the UK and US press about, oh my God, how can the Kremlin win such a decisive victory over Interpol, and that's just not right, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh my God, there's one organization on this planet that we don't completely freaking control, and everybody's like losing their minds. Well, there's a reason for that, and that's because, of course, that Bill Browder is at the epicenter of all the bad shit that has happened from like the middle of the 1990s in Russia to today. Everything about Russia runs in some ways, that narrative is tied to Bill Browder. And we all know this now, thanks to Lee Stranahan, who I hope gets better real soon now. I don't know if those of you who don't know, Lee's been really sick. Lucy Commissar, Alex Craner, and others. They've all been doing yeoman's work. Brett Harris on Twitter, all of whom have been doing unbelievable work to put the pieces together as to what's going on with this guy Browder. So we have the Interpol thing. So that sets the stage for the latest set of headlines that came out of Russia today, because it's really funny how we're really good at like prepping the narrative stream and seeding stories into the narrative, into the daily Overton window to ensure that everything goes the way we want it to. It's really quite impressive to see how that works out. Good evening, LA Child. How are you? It's really impressive. So over the weekend, we get this news about Interpol. And on Monday morning, the Russians are out there going, we've got multiple lawsuits now that we're opening up against Bill Browder, criminal mastermind. So they've got him on basically the Russian equivalent of RICO for creating and maintaining, in their words, a criminal organization, worldwide criminal organization. That's just beautiful. And then on top of that, they don't even stop there. They counter then with, oh, by the way, there are these, not only is there Sergei Magnitsky, is his death questionable, but there's these three other guys that died under mysterious circumstances, who all had ties to Bill Browder. And if we didn't find traces of a toxic aluminum compound in their livers. Now, that's more information we got out of the Russians so far about these people. Then we've gotten about Sergei and Yulia Skripal. So it's like, it's really funny what the Russians are doing here, because and they even said in their statement, they said, look, we didn't go to look for this early on, but somehow now we're looking for it, and we haven't really done it. We didn't think to look for this because we haven't done any toxicity studies on this particular aluminum compound, which they will not mention, by the way. They just said it was a water-soluble aluminum compound. I'm thinking, as a chemist, I'm like, what, aluminum cyanide? What are you talking about here? I mean, there's plenty of aluminum compounds that are toxic, but not acutely toxic in a poison, orally dosed poison sense. Let's, not that I know of off the top of my head. I'd have to go downstairs and like pull out my CRC. And yes, because I am a former chemist, so I'm like, I do have one of those in the house. I also have a Merck index and a variety of other stuff in my house as well. But not that I've cracked them in years. As a matter of fact, my Merck index is holding up the monitor I'm looking into right now that I've got my webcam. So, I mean, dude, this is my setup, right? So I needed to be raised 6 inches. Well, the Merck index works. Oh, we'll use that. And it's also now handy, right? To look up, toxicity on various weird compounds that maybe, I don't know. It's just really funny. All right. So it's when I spoke with Lee Stranahan on my podcast a couple of months ago, he kept bringing up this idea of drip, 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 right? That the way to really seed a story that does not want to be seeded into the narrative, that the powers that be and the powerly do not want anyone to talk about, that you have to like throw out little drips of information, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. Notice how the Turks have been dripping out information about the Khashoggi murder. Waiting, they drip a little bit out, then the Saudis respond. They drip a little bit more out, which contradicts what the Saudis just said, and then a little bit more. And they do the same thing over and over and over again. And it's a beautiful thing to watch, right? It's an absolutely beautiful thing to watch. So, I have to wonder if the Russians are doing the same thing with Browder. And that it started with Helsinki, Putin making mention of it. Then he goes to Valdai and talks about it for like 5 minutes, right? And now leaves it out in the narrative, leaves it out in the ether sphere for people like myself and Lee and Lucy Commissar and others to build upon and just have it out there. Jack Posobiec picks up parts of the story and all this, right? And it all ties in with Ukraine and the Maidan and Russiagate and the Steele dossier. It's all tied together. All this shit ultimately leads, the modern version of it all leads back to Hillary trying to frame Trump as a Russian conspirator, which they were effectively supposed to release into the public about a month before the election to scuttle Trump's chances of winning, right? I don't know what's going on with my bandwidth, and I am literally the only person in the house, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of consistency out of the stream. So if the stream's a little weird tonight, I don't know what to do about it. I've got plenty of room on my hard drive. Everything is good, but we're getting a lot of drops. So, but bear with. So I just find it really funny as to what's going on here. I wonder if the Russians are really just, because that they've been investigating Browder, and that I know I reported for you guys back in, I think it was October or late September or whatever, that Browder was trying to use the EU to stop Cyprus from assisting the Russians into looking into a Cyprus operation. So, and I just found it, I just found it, interesting that here we are 6 weeks later, Cyprus is still assisting the Russians, and now new stuff is coming out. Now the Russians feel that they've got enough on him to charge him again with now criminal conspiracy. So I think it's just really, really funny how this stuff is playing out, right? It's also great because it should play itself out, because this needs to be dealt with. Because Browder is the key here to getting to Khodorkovsky and then clearing up U.S.-Russian relations. Because Lee Stranahan is absolutely right about this. Hillary Clinton wanted to be president so bad that she destroyed U.S.-Russian relations to do it. And poison-pilled the entire thing. We've had, and I'm thinking now about the last 5 or 10 years, and I'm thinking to myself, it makes perfect sense why the Magnitsky Act exists, why they would go for this. This isn't just Browder's hubris here. This isn't just his desire to cover his own ass. There's something much bigger going on. Magnitsky Act and its sequel, CATSA, is being used today for all sorts of reasons. Every day, the Trump administration, because they don't have any choice because of CATSA, are putting more and more sanctions on all of these people all around the world. It's giving a guy like Steve Mnuchin, Goldman Sachs guy, leeway to sanction everybody he doesn't want. He doesn't like. He doesn't want walking around. Because anybody who can finger any of these people, they need to be silenced. And so the conspiracy of Bill Browder and the tentacles it reaches into, it has everywhere. He's at the epicenter of all these tentacles and all of these different things. And the Magnitsky Act was absolutely meant as a means by which to prosecute hybrid war against enemies of the U.S., EU, European oligarchy, what I like to call the Davos crowd, who were pushing for perfect centralization and the destruction of democratic systems in all of the Western societies. Obviously, the EU is in that position right now. They're fighting Brexit like you wouldn't believe. And, just go look at the midterms and tell me that, we have elections in this. We don't. Right? We have choices that are made for us. We have the illusion of choice. So, the Magnitsky Act is absolutely evil in every way, in every fundamental way, because it's being used for nothing more than a way to silence individual critics, marginalize and freeze the assets of individual critics. It's very Orwellian. And if it's founded on a lie that was sold to feckless and out-of-touch politicians who want to look like, it's easy. The whole thing screams of, hey, all we have to do here is blow smoke up these people's asses, give them a good story that'll make them look good because all politicians want to have a cause célèbre to make themselves look good, right? The one thing you can always count on in politics is the narcissism of politicians, right? So, Browder's whole story about Magnitsky makes them look like the, moral paragons that they're not. So it's an easy sell to the electorate, to everybody. Everybody wants to feel good about this. We're sanctioning bad guys who destroyed a man imprisoned wrongly and, for defying an evil regime in Russia. It's all bull crap. And if they can prove, which they can now, and they can get Browder into a court of law where he can be proven that the Magnitsky Act was sold as a lie to now hundreds of politicians around the world, that narcissism that got the thing passed in the first place. Politicians don't like to look like jackasses. They don't like to look like people who've been duped. And they'll resist believing this story for as long as they can until the evidence is overwhelming. They'll deny all of it. They'll call anybody who decries Browder's story as a kook and an asshole. They'll do it. And they'll do it because they can. Oh, by the way, if you guys are talking on Periscope, I don't think Restream is actually funneling my comments through anymore. I don't think it's working because the stream's been so poor. So if you're on Periscope, you might want to pop over onto YouTube if you've got something to say, because I'm not seeing any of it. Okay. So when you break down all of it, it makes sense to me that China and Russia at this point in time, after the Iran sanctions go into effect, after Trump is overplayed his hand on sanctions and all of it, the whole 9 yards, that they would then turn around and go for the jugular on Browder. Because they have to. It's time now to take down the Magnitsky Act. It's time now to take this guy down, put him, get him to make a terrible, terrible choice, which is, go to freaking Russian prison or turn states on everybody. And he's such a little bitch that he's not, that damn well that he's running around telling everybody to protect his ass. Otherwise, he'll turn on them because he's a little bitch. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Take one look at that. Take one look at Browder running down the streets of Paris when he was getting served. That video of him getting served by the process server. I mean, guy's go watch his deposition in the Prevezon case. Crazy what a little bitch he is. It's obvious that he's going to wind up being the patsy for all these people. But he also knows where all the bodies are buried. And so, there you go. And that's the generous version of Bill Browder, right? The ungenerous version of it is he's been a CIA asset for 25 years. Oh, what I've seen of the deposition Thordoom is unreal. It's so bad. So yeah, the Magnitsky story is terrible, right? It's when you actually listen to Browder's story about this cockamamie bullshit story about how complicated the whole thing is. Dirty cops and breaking into his office and stealing the corporate seals and this and that, all this crap. And you're like, the fuck? How about he was your accountant and he knows where your financial bodies are buried and you had him offed in prison and you're trying to frame Putin and some Moscow cops for it? Who benefits from Sergei Magnitsky being dead? Putin? No. Browder. And that's what the Russians are saying today. They're like, not only do we have evidence that these people were poisoned, but our most likely suspect is the man who had motive for having all these people offed. Unbelievable. Now, the question I have now is, and I just wrote all this up in a blog post. Add this to Bill Browder's resume. Criminal mastermind. What's now really important, and the big question is, what does Trump know? Moreover, what does Trump believe? Last question is, does he even care? Because let's not kid ourselves. Trump has made it very clear. Whatever he thinks is good for America, he's going to do. Until you prove to him otherwise. He's going to back Israel to death. He's going to back the Saudis to death. It's his plan. Crush the Palestinians, make the world safer for Israel and Saudi Arabia, and create an Arab NATO, which is not going to work. But he's been sold on this plan, and he's going to run with it. He's not deterred yet. He should be. He should be looking at 2020 going, this is not going to win you re-election. So now, what's the situation with Browder? What's the situation with Putin? What does Trump know? What did Putin tell him in Helsinki? It's a really good question. At this point, I'm not convinced of anything. Midterms are over. Mike Pompeo still has a job. We're still in Syria. Trump's still back in dumb shit in foreign policy, and they did nothing to stop the Democrats from stealing like 15 House seats and a couple of Senate seats. I'm looking for the upside here, other than Trump trolling people on Twitter, which is, by the way, an upside. But I'm now in now in full mode. I'm now completely in show me mode with Trump. Because I'm just not convinced anymore. And I've been this way for about 2 weeks. I've been this way since the midterms. He's done nothing to make me think that he has any control over the situation whatsoever. I mean, yeah, he's sticking it in the eye of the Democrats by putting Matt Whitaker in charge as AG, acting AG after firing Sessions. But I don't see anything. I don't see anything happening. I don't see. So. Thordium, the Arab NATO is not going to work. I saw the event today with Erdogan and Putin, which is inaugurating the building of the first leg of Turkish Stream pipeline. And it was telling what the alliance in the Middle East is for. Oh, it's so obvious at this point. It's so obvious that Turkey is no longer a part of NATO. And Erdogan is absolutely shaking Trump and the Saudis down for everything he can get out of them. It's actually really quite interesting. But yeah. And if Trump doesn't, well, Trump has got a North on 60. Look, if that's the case, then this is done. Adelson doesn't own Trump, but Trump did owe him. I think Trump honestly believes all this. I'm much closer to User 13's view on this, that he's just a friggin' 70-year-old baby boomer from New York. He's got his biases. Oh, I'm not upset at all that the U.S. foreign Middle East policy is falling apart, User 13. I'm not at all. It's a terrible plan. It always has been a terrible plan. And that's why I've been so angry with Trump for a year and a half, going, this is a terrible plan. The better plan is to stop trying to get too much and just cut a freaking peace deal. Who bought all the puts in the airline stocks on 9/10/2001? Why are we discussing 9/11? It wasn't Donald Trump, okay? I mean, yeah, I know. I'm guys, I'm not happy about where things are, and I'm not gonna be going forward. I really am quite disappointed that this is where things are going. We've always known that Trump doesn't have much of a plan on foreign policy. Pretty obvious at this point. And anybody who keeps trying to tell me that that all this is working, I get DMs from people from some of my harshest critics regularly showing me like 30-second clips of stuff going on in Iran, and I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. I'll show you 30-second clips of Ferguson that they'll or Portland, Oregon, that they're showing over in Tehran right now, or Mashhad. Give me a fucking break. You see what you want to see. You see what you hear what you want to hear. Individual people. There's 80 million Iranians. Erdogan said that the audience that Turkey was pushed for a long time to not have a good relationship with Russia, and now that that's going to change forever, the audience exploded. The Turks want the shift. Our support for Israel is becoming untenable, says user 13. The Israelis took our moves to mean they could do whatever they wanted, and they overreached in horrible ways. Yeah, exactly. It's very difficult to focus on. So on Periscope, LA Child is talking about who was the CIA leak? I don't know. Yeah, you guys got sacrificed out in California. It's pretty obvious. They stole like 10 House seats in California. It's really sad. Well, I mean, we can make excuses for him all day long, but the truth of the matter is that he's put himself in this position, William Justice. That's the problem. Was Halpern the one who leaked the CIA and Saudi King? Possible. I mean, seriously, I'm at the point now, I'm done with excuses, right? You had 2 years to prepare for the midterms and to prepare for unbelievable voter fraud, and you got nothing done. So, all you can do at this point is highlight the hypocrisy and hope that we, show up. I told you before the elections, I said that there will be a referendum on what country we want to actually have. Or do we even want to have a country? And, the truth of the matter is that, of course, the midterms were the fault of the Republican Party and Paul Ryan, but so what? I'm at that point. I'm like, why is the CIA accusing MBS in your opinion? Because they don't want MBS in power. They're undermining him. So irrepressibly is asking me on Periscope. CIA wants their SATRAP app. They want NAF or someone like that back in charge in the line of succession in Saudi Arabia. MBS is beyond their control. That's the only good attribute the man has, is that he's not in the pay of the CIA. He's Trump's ally, for better or worse, but like Netanyahu took Trump's imprimatur as carte blanche to go run ape shit all over everybody on the Arabian Peninsula and everywhere else. They don't have a lot of alternatives. I'm telling you to prepare yourself for the worst case scenario, that the blooms come off the rose, and we're 2 years into this, and it's not looking good. Trump's got like a year and a half to fix his foreign policy. And if you're living in California, dude, I don't know what to do. I mean, this has been coming for a long time. The Republic, I think, is already dead. If these midterms taught us anything, it taught us that there will not be free and open elections in this country. The political process is dead. There is no republic. The Constitution's been a dead letter since FDR or earlier. It's just you're now like all coming to this conclusion. We libertarians got there years ago. Okay? We've been calling it the Second American Revolution. This is 1913 for a long time now. Yeah, will he tarnish his legacy by serving an additional 4 years? Who the hell knows? I mean, does he have a legacy at this point? What's his legacy? Really entertaining on Twitter? Tax cuts that will be reversed? A couple of Supreme Court nominations for some guys who will probably vote wrong anyway once, their kids are threatened. I mean, at the end of the day, do you really think that it matters who he nominates to the Supreme Court? I mean, John Roberts fucked us on Obamacare. He wrote an opinion that pretty much said, I disagree with this, but I'm voting for it because they threaten my family. We can't lead. No one wants us to lead. That's the problem. I wish we could, but no one wants us to lead. We gave you Ron Paul, for Christ's sake. We gave you the best friggin' politician in the history of this country, for fuck's sake. The Republicans said no. The system is that corrupt. Systems are the problem. Who wants to bet that Brenda Snipes' email is all deleted? I'm not taking that bet. Unless I'm on the side of I get to bet that they're all gone. I mean, that woman's stupid, but she's not stupid. Okay? I mean, it's just insane at this point. It's just sad. Good that they worked that. I mean, you got to remember, okay, so here's the silver lining. The silver lining is we worked them over so hard, they had to come out and openly cheat. I mean, seriously, we worked them over so hard, we came out in the big enough numbers that they had to openly cheat, such that everybody can see what they did. That's worth something. What the RNC did to Ron Paul was unforgivable. Of course it was unforgivable. We libertarians are looking at this, the real libertarians are looking at this situation going, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, people. I mean, it's really hard to be Dagny. It's a lot easier to be John Galt. We told you this was all fucked. No one listened to us. No one listened to us for years. Politics got us into this mess. Will not get us out. I mean, again, everything ends. All experiments come to an end. They just do. What's important is what you do. What's important is how you comport yourself. Important is what you espouse. It's important what you hold in your heart, for lack of a better term. Phrase. And keep that on the positive, right? Stay in a positive mode and go, okay, what can we salvage from this? How can we keep our community together? What can we do to prepare ourselves to be people who are ready to lead once we hit rock bottom? Because look, the truth of the matter is that we haven't come anywhere close to hitting rock bottom yet. We haven't. We just haven't. We're not even close. There's still some semblance of order. There's still bits of culture flying around in various places of the country, though, where the culture is still relatively strong. And I mean, by culture, I mean those that still have standards and values and whatnot, haven't lost their minds to Marxism. And I'm not talking about those parts of the country that, continue to vote, for lack of a better term, continue to vote red. Not all of them, for the most part. They still have a semblance of culture, where everything else is falling apart. Cities. That's where the fight's going to wind up. That's where the fight will wind up. That's where we wind up having to be. So the question is, what communities are you going to build? What are you going to do? Voting? I don't know. What do you do? Take back your local institutions of culture. Don't send your kids to public school. Raise your own food. I don't know. Pick something. Camille and I tried all of it at the same time. I got news for you. It's a lot of work. A lot of work. And it's hard. But you can do some of it. It may cost you some money in the short term. It may cost you some comfort in the short term. The question is, where would you rather be when all of this starts to fall apart? For real. I am? Or where you are? Tom, would you prefer partitioned U.S.? Wouldn't that be a better option for everybody in the U.S.? I think the U.S. is too divided to make through. I agree. I expect the country to fall apart. I don't know when, but I do. Depending on how things go over the next couple of years, could be as early as 2024. Do you really see anybody decent running for president anytime soon? Now we're looking at Michael Avenatti, thinking that he has a shot at running for president. I mean, these people out of their minds. We're gonna go grab the Rock. We're gonna go draft the Rock to do it for us. To lift the burden. Is that what we need next? Dwayne Johnson? I don't know. We need somebody conscientious. I know that. We don't need anybody open. Thinking big 5 pillars here. We don't want an open person. Open people are what got us into this mess in the first place. How do democratic cities fall apart and yet still vote for the same people? Propaganda. I have fewer goats today than I did yesterday. So if I'm a little acerbic tonight. Oh, the Dwayne is too conscientious. I don't think he would make a good president at all. I think he'd give it his best shot. I think he'd work his ass off. Guys, I'm about out of material. Not sure what I want to talk about anymore. And I'm really not in much of a mood to do this anymore. I had a hard day today. I got about 41 minutes in me. All right. Doesn't look like I have any bandwidth anyway, so we're going to call that a show. You guys take care. You have a great evening. I will be back Friday night at 8:30. I'll try and get something. Oh, Thanksgiving. I'll have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Truly. One of the few holidays that I actually like. Because it's one of those things that, it's one of those days of the year that, well, doesn't celebrate anything having to do with the state. It has to do with you and your family and everybody else. Things that are important. Not all this political bullshit. Gets us all up to our eyeballs and anger and angst and all the rest of it. Worry and anxiety and all those A words. All those A words suck. So enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your family. And pie. And in my house, it's going to be a gingered pear pie. There it is. There it is. I always get this wrong. All right. You guys take care. You be good. We'll be back on Friday night, 8:30. Black Friday. Keep your stick on the ice.